On this episode of China Uncensored, is there anyone who still believes in journalism? Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. You know, it's hard out there for newspapers. According to the Pew Research Center, newspaper subscriptions are declining fast, and ad revenues are falling too. So it's tough to make ends meet. Fortunately, there's at least one group that hasn't given up on Western journalism. The Chinese Communist Party. Yes, the Chinese state-run media is paying to place its propaganda in mainstream Western newspapers, like the Daily Telegraph, the New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal. Well, it's not exactly propaganda. Propaganda would be if a Chinese newspaper ran a story called something like, I don't know, "Wherever you look, red reigns supreme." But if you get a respected American newspaper to run the same thing, people think it's credible. So it becomes something that's more accurately called disinformation. That's when intentionally false or misleading information is planted in a way that would make people believe it. It was a technique masterminded by the Soviets, and it's been fine-tuned by the Chinese Communist Party. This is the latest piece of disinformation, a 5-page full-color spread published in the January 17th edition of the Wall Street Journal. Sure, it looks exactly like a bunch of news articles, but it's an advertisement. You can tell by the small text at the bottom of the page that says, paid by the Xinhua News Agency. And because it's selling us Xi Jinping's vision for a better world for all. Yes, China has a plan for you too. That article also criticizes the U.S. for its sense of superiority and impatience. Another article on that page accuses Europe of being fueled by rightist ideas. But if you're concerned about the Communist Party's anti-Western messages being printed in the Wall Street Journal, well, sure, they're inside the Wall Street Journal. But according to the Wall Street Journal, they're not in the Wall Street Journal. I emailed their spokesperson who responded, "The Journal has run special advertising sections and other traditional advertising from China Watch, which are clearly labeled as such. The Journal's news organization is not involved." Basically, if someone pays them to run an ad, they're not responsible for what it says, even though they intentionally made the decision to include it in their paper, and it's clearly an attempt by an oppressive foreign regime to influence Americans. FYI, I also asked the Wall Street Journal if they'd be willing to run a full-page ad that praises Stalin. Strangely, they did not respond. And here's one of the most interesting things this 5-page Chinese ad is selling: blasphemy that masquerades as art. Yes, the Chinese Communist Party is a great art critic. After all, they spent decades eradicating traditional Chinese culture and twisting theater to their own political ends. So they know a thing or two. So what is this so-called blasphemy that masquerades as art that Chinese state-run media is criticizing? Why, it's Shenyun, a dance company that state-run media accuses of being linked to Falun Gong, aka Falun Dafa. Well, I am shocked to hear this terrible secret that no one knows, except for the fact that Shenyun explicitly says this on their own website. Shenyun is reviving 5,000 years of civilization, features the world's foremost classically trained dancers, and look, it was established by Falun Dafa practitioners in 2006. Whistle blown. What amazing investigative reporting from Chinese state-run media. If you've been watching China Uncensored for a while, you've heard me talk about the Chinese regime's weird obsession with slandering Shenyun. And if this is new to you, let me tell you why the Communist Party sees this Chinese-American dance show as such an enormous threat. Falun Gong practitioners are the people getting their organs harvested in China as punishment for doing this and this. Such a threat to social harmony, like yoga. And yet, and this is true, the Chinese regime has spent billions of dollars since the late 90s creating a global propaganda campaign to slander Falun Gong, including by planting disinformation in foreign newswire services like the Associated Press. Anyway, you can imagine that this latest Chinese state-run media / totally not Wall Street Journal article does not speak highly of Shenyun, calling it full of far-fetched themes that spare little effort in demonizing the Chinese government. Hey, demonizing the Chinese government is hard work. Unfortunately for the Chinese Communist Party, Shenyun is actually really popular. It plays to packed theaters every year in hundreds of cities around the world. I just saw their performance at New York's Lincoln Center last week. It sold out 4 shows in a row. So what's so blasphemous about it? Well, the show had about 20 dance and music numbers. Most depicted cultural and historic things from China, like a scene from Journey to the West. But some of them also show an awareness of modern China. One had a monk with awesome fighting skills defending a Buddhist temple from being demolished by communist officials during the Cultural Revolution. Another one showed Falun Gong practitioners standing up to the Chinese regime's persecution. Imagine using the arts to tell important stories. What blasphemy. Yes, according to the article, audiences get assaulted with everything the Falun Gong propaganda arsenal has to fire at them. Wow. Let's see what people assaulted with the Falun Gong propaganda arsenal have to say.
I laughed, I cried, colorful and vibrant and joyous.
The dancers, you guys are amazing.
Great experience, well worth it.
Why, even a Wall Street Journal anchor said she and her son enjoyed the show.
So I have him to thank for introducing me to this beautiful culture.
Another good part was when the monks were fighting the Red Guards.
But for the Chinese regime, Falun Gong is a third-rail issue. They hate it when people talk about it positively because it rips apart their propaganda. Like back in 2001 when the Wall Street Journal won a Pulitzer Prize for reporting on the regime's persecution of Falun Gong. That was before the Communist Party started paying the Wall Street Journal, though. For years, the Chinese Communist Party has gone to great lengths to stop people from seeing Shenyun. Chinese embassies around the world have written to theaters that hosting Shenyun may compromise relations between China and their country, and pressuring them to cancel it, like in Spain, Germany, and even Florida. That's pretty low. Florida needs all the culture it can get. Anyway, it's a tactic that generally backfires, since when the news comes out, it kind of makes people want to see the show more. But if an article inside a well-respected paper like the Wall Street Journal trashes Shenyun as Falun Gong propaganda, that could actually affect sales, especially for readers who don't realize it's an ad from the Chinese state-run media. But come on, Wall Street Journal, are you really willing to print the Chinese Communist Party's disinformation for a few $1,000? Wait, what's that, Shelley? Oh, the retail price for a full-page color ad in the Wall Street Journal is $354,000. The Xinhua News ad was 5 pages, so about $1.8 million. I mean, I'm sure the Journal gave them a discount. After all, they probably want repeat business. But you know what? If they'll run a full-page Chinese propaganda ad, we should run a China Uncensored ad. Except I don't have $354,000, and that's maybe too ambitious of a Kickstarter campaign. Hey, who needs a newspaper ad anyway? Traditional media is dying. I have you, my 50-cent army. Yes, China Uncensored fans, I want you to spread the word about the show. Remember that wanted poster of me that someone created? Download it on this website. The link is in the description box below. Print out 10 copies, 20 copies, or as many as you can, and put them up in a populated area near you. Take a wide photo of one of the posters and send it to me at chinauncensored@gmail.com. Don't forget to tell me where you put it up, and we'll put those pictures on our Facebook page. This is gonna be awesome. So what do you think of the Wall Street Journal allowing Chinese disinformation to be printed in an ad in their paper? Leave your comments below. And be sure to share this episode to expose the Communist Party's disinformation. Thanks for watching this episode of China Uncensored. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time. And put up those posters. Click the link below.